Parshat Lech Lecha, and I wanted to share with you an idea that I say over in Yeshiva a lot. If you are an alumnus of the Yeshiva, you might remember this from one of my early sichot. You might not remember it. I'm assuming you don't remember it, and therefore I want to share it with you. Parshat Lech Lecha, we are introduced to Avram Avinu at the age of 75. And it's quite late to be introduced to the father of the Jewish people. There's a lot of history that we don't really know about Avram. And indeed, if you look at the Rambam in Hilchos Avos Chachavim, the Rambam really describes Avram's search for God. And really searching, looking at the heavens, trying to understand the world, and going through this philosophical process of reaching monotheism. And we don't get to experience that at all in the Chumash. The Chumash tells us right away, our introduction to Avram is Lech Lecha me'artzecha. The Midrashim fill in the gaps, and indeed you have a very, very famous, you all have heard of it, the famous Medrash. Rashi cites it very briefly at the end of Parshas Noach, where the Torah tells us that Avram had a brother, and his brother was named Haran. And Haran, at the end of the Parsha in Noach, we're told Haran died al pnei terach aviv. Haran died literally on the lap, if you will, of his father. Haran died in the lap of his father Terach. And on that pasuk, Vayamas Haran al pnei terach aviv, so the Medrash, Rashi quotes a small piece of it, but the Medrash goes into great detail about how exactly did Haran die. What happened that Haran died? Why is Haran significant? Why is his death significant? And why does the Torah tell us that he died on the lap of his father Terach? So the Medrash describes the following scenario. There was this very strong leader called Nimrod. And Nimrod had built the Tower of Babel, a very, very huge tower, to make a name for himself, to really undermine God. And if you look at the Netziv, beautiful, beautiful Netziv, the Netziv says that tower, the Tower of Babel, was not merely to undermine God, but it was actually a lookout tower. And it was a lookout tower that could see the entire land. And any people, anyone who was a dissenter to the ways of Nimrod, so Nimrod would capture him, would find it, they'd have these spies looking out, and any dissenters would be pulled in, would be brought in, and Nimrod would take care of them, but good. What would he do to them? He would throw them into the Kivshan Ha'esh, the Kivshan that went ahead and forged the bricks that were used for the great edifices that were being built by Nimrod. So sure enough, the Medrash describes that there was a contrarian in the world of Nimrod, and that was Avraham HaIvri. Ivri, he was on the other side. The whole world was in one direction, and Avram HaIvri was on the other side of the river, and he was doing his own thing, where Nimrod was preaching a paganistic world, a world of Avodah Zarah, a world celebrating man's accomplishments, his great edifices, his great towers. Avram was preaching monotheism. And that did not work in the world of Nimrod. So Nimrod captured Avram and he pulled him in. But the Medrash describes before that happened, there was a day, Terach was an Oved Avodah Zarah. Terach, Avram's father, was an Oved Avodah Zarah. And Terach had an idol shop. And one day, Terach had to go to town, and he needed someone to mind the shop, and he put Avram, the monotheist, his son, into the shop. And the Medrash describes very, very beautifully that someone came into the store, and the person came into the store and they wanted to buy an idol. And Avram said, "You're a fool. These idols were built a day ago. They were created a day ago. You're a 60-year-old man, you're worshiping something, you're 60 and you're worshiping something that was created a day ago." And the fellow ran out of the store. Avram did not make the sale. Then a woman comes in, and she's coming in with very fine flour, with solas, and she wants to offer it to one of the idols. And Avram thought to himself, this is ridiculous. And he goes ahead and he takes a baseball bat, and he smashes all of the idols, except for one. The woman with the solas, she sees this, she gets out of there, and he leaves over the largest of the idols, and he puts the baseball bat in the hand of the idols, and then shortly thereafter, Terach comes back, and Terach sees his whole store is destroyed, except for this one idol holding the stick. Terach says, "Avram, what happened over here? What did you do?" And Avram says, "You wouldn't believe it. This lady came in and wanted to offer solas to the idols. And the idols started to get into a fight. This one says, offer it to me. This one says, I want it. Back and forth, and they start smashing each other. They hit, this one hits one, then they start smashing each other, and sure enough, the biggest one grabs the bat, and he knocks them all out, and she offers the soles to the biggest one. He's the only one left standing. And Terach says, what do you take me for, a fool? These are pieces of stone. And Avram says, do you hear what you're saying? Yeah, these are pieces of stone. And Terach gets all upset, and he brings Avram to Nimrod. And there's a philosophical discussion that Avram has with Nimrod. Nimrod says, you don't want to worship stones, these stones, so worship the sun. And Avram says, worship the sun, but the sun is not there at night. Worship the moon, but the moon is not there during the daytime. And they had this back and forth. So worship clouds. They're there at night, and you can see them also during the day. Yeah, but the wind can blow the clouds. So worship man, because man can go withstand wind. And the back and forth, and basically Nimrod has enough. And he says, forget this. Avram, I'm going to go ahead and throw you into the Kivshan HaEsh. That's the plan. This is the early years which the Midrash fills in. There are allusions to this in the Psukim, but that's what the Midrash develops. And watching this whole scene is Haran. Haran's watching the whole scene that takes place between Avram and Nimrod. And Nimrod observes Haran, and he says to Haran, Nu Haran, what's with you? Whose side are you on? Are you on Nimrod's side, my side, or are you on Avram's side? So Haran decides to answer. He says, well, smart guy, he says, let's see what happens to Avram. Let me wait and see, and once I see what happens to Avram, then I'll let you know whose side I'm on. Nimrod says, fine. He takes Avram and he throws him into the Kivshan HaEsh, and as we know, Avram walks out of the fiery furnace unscathed. So now Nimrod turns to Haran and says, what do you want? Whose side are you on? And Haran says, I'll go with Avram. Looks like it worked for him. I'm going to choose that side. And sure enough, Nimrod says, fine. Throws Haran into the Kivshan HaEsh, and Haran perishes. Again, al pnei terach aviv, because it was ultimately because of Terach that this all transpired. That is the Avram and Haran contrast. Haran sits back and says, let me wait and see. Let's see what happens to Avram, then I'll let you know where I'm holding. Avram is very, very different. Avram has evidence in front of him. He sees a certain reality. Was it 100% proof positive? I'm not sure that exists in this world. But Avram says, I have enough. I'm going to forge ahead. I'm going to do what I think is right. And he acts on that conviction. Haran is what I refer to as a wallflower. He sits back on the side, on the sidelines. Let's see what transpires. Interestingly, Noach had the same exact problem as Haran. Because Chazal tell us that when it started raining, Noach built a teva, and then it started to rain. And it rains. But Noach did not believe Hashem was actually going to go through with it. And it rained some more, ankle deep, knee deep, thigh deep. It gets up to his belly button. It gets up to his chest. And Noach says, you're not going to go through with this. If you remember the old Bill Cosby, actually that's not a kosher comedian anymore. Did some very bad things. But there was an old Bill Cosby bit where he plays this Noach character having this conversation with God. It's quite humorous. But again, Bill Cosby is not an okay man right now. But in any event, Noach, the person who's recording this is laughing as I'm saying this. Noach, where I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so Noach says he still doesn't believe it's going to happen. And until the Chumash says that Noach went into the teva literally mipnei me hamabul, because of the waters of the Mabul. In other words, Chazal tell us the waters got all the way up to his nostrils, and only then did he go into the teva, because Rashi quotes, Noach too was mechusrei emuna. He didn't have 100% belief. Is Hashem really going to do this? Is he really going to go through with it? And Noach was doubtful until the evidence was 100% he wasn't going into the teva. See, Haran and Noach are both plagued with what I will call the flaw of a certain passivity. They sit back. They're not ready to fully jump in. Haran is not ready to fully jump in. He waits on the sidelines, and then when he finally does jump in, it's too late. Noach on some level is mechusrei emunah. He's lacking that core emunah, and also is somewhat of a sideline type player. Avram is exactly the opposite. It's exactly what the Medrash and Chazal are telling us, and you see that in Avram's life, is that when Hashem has missions for him, when he tells him, Lech Lecha me'artzecha, there's no equivocation. There's no doubt Avram does. When there's Hachnas Sorchim opportunities, Avram does. When there are wars to battle, Avram fights those wars, he wages those wars. When there's chesed to be done, he does that chesed. When there's dom to be saved, when there is nakedas yitzah to be performed. So you find no equivocation. Avram is zrizim magdim lemitzvos. And in that sense, he's such an iconoclast, such a visionary and such a unique personality. No coincidence that he is the Avi Avot. He's the first of the Avos. And in that sense, because he knows what his vision, what his mission is, and he fulfills that mission. Well, perhaps the Midrashim are trying to contrast us, contrasting Noach to Avram and contrasting Haran to Avram is very, very significant, very profound, is that this world is a very murky world. And you're never going to have 100% clarity in this world. That's the nature of this world. It's a world of tov and ra, and it gets very, very confusing. And I think one of our challenges is, despite that confusion, you have a sense of what's right, you have a sense of what you're supposed to do, you get up and do it. You don't wait on the sidelines for other people to act, for other people to move. You step up and you get things done. And I think that's the Avram personality, that's a vision, and perhaps that's what the Torah is trying to tell us, or Chazal is trying to tell us, in contrasting Avram to some of these earlier characters that we find to the Haran personality and to the Noah personality.